All right, folks, any changes to the minutes? Could we come to consensus on them? If so, just give me that virtual thumbs up so that I see that we're good, and then we can move on. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Eduardo.
One quick change from me,
Yeah,
this is Rachel.
yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
I'm the co-president of District 25. It says president, so I just wanted
Oh,
to
you
make
got
sure.
it. I will make sure that I make that change right now.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, anything else? We good? All right, perfect. All right, guys, thank you so much. And we're going to begin our work today. I have actually a lot of things to talk to you about in the superintendent's report as we begin closing out this school year and begin thinking around planning for next school year. We'll have a little bit of an opportunity to look at some data trends from the middle of the year, a little bit more in depth than we did during the March meeting, and start organizing our thinking around goal setting for September. In two goals, we'll start with two goals this month, and then we'll finish out the other three goals in May. Figure to do all of them at once, we don't really have a chance to really think and talk about them. So, I'm going to bring you through a couple of the spaces for our goals around priority one, which is around all students learn to read, and then priority two, that all students are physically and emotionally safe, so that we're in a good space of thinking around those two. There'll be some a space of talking about the AI guidance that's come out from the central team. I do want to have everyone's eyes on it, so that we can all give some collective feedback on that if you haven't done so already or haven't reviewed it yourself. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time to review some of the documents that are on the central page, and then we can have a little bit of chat about it ourselves. But I do think it's important that we have our eyes on that. And then last month, I asked that we all start thinking about what does it mean to be academically rigorous here in District 25? What does it mean to be physically, emotionally safe in District 25? And what does it mean to be truly integrated? So we're going to take a little bit of an opportunity to also enter in some of our thoughts, and it'll be an ongoing conversation that we begin to have not only here with DLT, we'll start having it with our principals, APs, our teachers, to really make sure that we have a solidified vision for teaching and learning. Moving forward, particularly because the work of Portrait of a Graduate is now becoming front and center of our conversations, as a not only from the state level but now down to our citywide level. And we have to have a very, very clear, robust set of things that we're thinking about here at the district. So when the citywide team organizes their thinking around this too, that we're all kind of in lockstep in what our beliefs are moving forward. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're going to be talking about today. Before we get started, we always like to do our little connection before content activity, and we won't do a breakout room just because I do have a lot to talk about today, but I'm going to put it into the chat. And then for those of you that are willing, I invite you just to post some things into the chat. So the food debate, home cooked meal or fancy restaurant, which one would you really more align yourself to? For yourself? Are you one that looks for the home cooked meal and you say, you know what, I can't wait for that? Or you're like, you know what, no, I'm going out because I really feel like I need a steak dinner tonight? Which side of it do you lean on? Put that into the chat. Eduardo, home cooked meal, I like it. Charlene, fancy, okay. Home cooked meal for Patricia. Ah, that's true, Rob. It does depend on who's doing the cooking. I won't disagree with that. Mom making the macaroni meatballs, I might have to go with the home cooked. But Eduardo, what's the go-to? Give me a quick go-to. What's the home cooked meal that you say, you know what, you can't deal without? You're on mute, Eduardo.
I would say the meat cooked in burgundy wine, beef bourguignon. It's a whole meal, like you add the potatoes and you slow cook it. Oh, always perfect.
Wow. All right. So you're doing the cooking the next time we come together. I love it. Thanks, Eduardo. Anyone else want to do a quick little entry there? I saw Patricia, you said home cooked as well. Anything in particular?
I love cooking. So for my husband, because the two moms, his mom's side, my mother-in-law, who I called mom too, anything Italian. Love it. Yeah,
Well,
it's
we're gonna have to bring
fantastic.
you on board
Therapeutic,
between.
and the kids too. My kids cook. They're very good cooks too. So yeah, it's good. It's a whole family
Well, it's
affair.
a nice family connected
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
right? I
Oh
love
yeah.
that. I love that. Charlene, I saw you put fancy. Where are we going?
We are going to one of the best sushi restaurants in the city. I don't know which one it is yet, but when I find it, I'm about to. But I love sushi, so
I love it. Thank you, Charlene. And anyone else? Rob, go ahead. If it's a yeah, if it's a home cooked,
Oh, listen,
who's got to make it?
I'm trying to save some money these days, but I like to eat. So I started going to Costco. I got 3.5 inch ribeyes for $80. That would cost like $300 in the restaurant. I'm getting good at cooking it at home. A little
Nice.
reverse sear action. So I'm looking forward to being better at home as a cook.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, if my favorite place, I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to it, but my favorite place out on Long Island, it's Blackstone Steakhouse. It is way too expensive, but we do typically on our anniversary every year try to treat ourselves to Blackstone Steakhouse. That's one of my favorite places. But if I had to, I would also love to stay home and have a nice lasagna, something along those lines. I happen to like to cook myself, and usually around the Italian side of things. Grew up with a grandmother and mom that cook like crazy. So, if I had an opportunity, the macaroni meatballs, lasagna meatballs, baked ziti meatballs, and notice the meatballs always in there. That's my entry point. So thank you guys for entertaining that just for a couple of minutes. And I do want to welcome our newest member to the District 25 team and family. But we're really fortunate to be able to add on to our team our family support coordinator. We had been without our family FSC for quite a while when Esther moved on into a central position. And Jenny has been kind of assuming both roles over the past year and a half, but we are really fortunate to welcome Jessica Villegas to our team, who will be serving in that role. And she's been in the role, I feel, was it 3 weeks now, Jessica? 2 to 3 weeks? Uh-oh, you're going mute, on mute, off mute. Add it to the chat. It might be your headset, yeah.
Oh, here we go. I would have to say this is going to be the fourth week.
Fourth week, yay.
Yes, it's awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Villegas, and I am the new family support coordinator.
Yes, welcome Jessica. And Jessica's, jumped right into the fun from day one. So we're really happy that Jessica's here with us, and we'll be there to support all of our families and and certainly our PCs moving forward. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'm going to jump right into our celebrations and reminders and all of that fun stuff. And there are a number of things that we do need to highlight. And you guys know that I'm really very much invested in our work with Civics for All and our work with our kids in that area. But we do have two children that I do want to highlight. I don't know that I highlighted them last session. We had two kids that presented for Project Soapbox at the CEC meeting, but we also had two children that earned their way to main stage with the Soapbox Challenge, and that is Esme from PS209 and Ethan from College Point Collaborative. Each of them in their speeches wound up getting to main stage, and one of our students is now in the finals. And that's Esme from PS209. So she did a fantastic job. We will invite them to an upcoming DLT so they can share their speeches. So we're really, really proud of them and proud of that work. Huge shout out to Melinda from our team for organizing our schools and getting our Civics for All work really moving in a really positive direction. I have to say every year we get better and better at this. Where our kids are having an opportunity to use those voices in productive ways. And this no different. So, our goal is to really make sure that our kids are having opportunities to do that research, think about what it is that's important to them, and then bring it to life. So, looking forward to more and more of this as time goes on. And there will be a share fair later in May where we're bringing all of our kids together that have written those speeches and identified by their schools so they can be recognized in a more wide sense. So big shout out to them. Not sure if you guys are aware of this, but we did have a citywide spelling bee winner. That is Liam from PS32, and I have to tell you, this young man, I'm not sure if you can see, but he's got a red and white shirt on. Do we notice that red and white shirt? So that red and white shirt is representative of his favorite soccer club. And his favorite soccer club is Sunderland. It's an English Premier League soccer club. They actually recognized Liam. They got word that Liam won the spelling bee, and he's become insta famous. They've been rooting him on. They know that he's going to be participating in the national spelling bee. So they've also made a jersey, a Sunderland jersey for him with his name on the back, and they'll be presenting it to him. The Sunderland team is coming to New York City in the coming weeks. They've invited Liam to go onto the soccer field and walk the team out onto what they call the pitch. They call the soccer field the pitch. So he'll be walking the team out. He's been interviewed by NBC. He's been interviewed by a New York radio station. It's just really, really unbelievable. And it's really, really cool stuff. And again, the spelling bee comes to life here also in the district with Melinda. She's a huge proponent of the spelling bee, and we do it every year and host it every year at 185. And this was the result. We have a young man who's won the citywide challenge and now is on his way to Washington D.C. in May. So we're rooting him on, and I think we should come up with something that's really special for him as a kickoff to get to Washington, D.C. So welcome any ideas that you might have to spread the news across, our district and, beyond, so that he is really, really, feels the love going into Washington. So really cool stuff there. This I also want to shout out our district. So we were part of a research study by the Center for Public Research in terms of how we organizing ourselves to implement new curriculum, and we were published in their All Systems Go publication. So big shout out to our schools. We had parents interviewed, we had teachers interviewed, we had building leaders interviewed, district team members interviewed. We had folks from PS32, 79, 24, and our district team that participated in this. And you'll see us quoted inside of this document. The link is there. I'm not going to spend any more time than just sharing it with you. But really proud of our leaders and teachers and parents for their contribution to this. And it does kind of showcase the things that we believe in here at the district level and are trying to continue to pursue, so that our kids see the most success possible inside of their work. But really, really proud of our folks for that. We had an amazing district math family night. Big shout out to Beth and Liz from our team, as well as Dr. Bradley for opening his doors at 189. We had a really amazing turnout at 189 for this math family night. Well over 100 folks came to really engage with their children in a variety of different math games and activities, and really, really quite well done. We'll continue to do these as time goes on, because it does bring families together with their children in productive ways. That's, phones are down and they're doing some math in really fun ways and getting kids excited with their families, competing against one another in in some games that I look at and I'm like, oh, I have to sit and really think through that one myself. So really, really positive and looking to continue to grow that over time. We also had our cheer expo. We did this at Townsend Harris. Really awesome experience. We had all of our schools from across the district had their cheer teams there, and I have to tell you, it was really, really amazing. And you'll notice that I get to pop myself in these pictures, but and get to take a lot of credit for all of the work that happens outside of me. So this is a big shout out to our principals and Diana Stein from our team. What I loved about this expo the most is that the kids on the outside, meaning that we're watching, were cheering on every single school that was participating. It was just such an amazing thing to watch. They were so excited for one another, as they presented their hard work to their community, and the stands were filled. And one of my favorite parts about this experience was a young lady came up to me, and this is the great part about having this thing out of high school. She came up to me, and she's like, she said to me, Dr. Nantone, I just want to let you know I'm coming here. This is the school that I'm going to be coming to now. And so aside from the idea of being able to show their skills in terms of cheer, just the experience of being there at a high school like Townsend Harris really spurred on the idea, the thoughts of them saying, I want to come here. This is the school that I want to go to. So really cool stuff. First in math competition, I am really, really proud of our schools. We have winners across grades 1 through 8, and they will be participating in the Albany competition that's coming up. I believe it's in May. I want to say it's in May, but usually they do the first in math competitions across the city, and they count this as one big district that goes to the competition in Albany. But when you break it down, District 25 had the winners in all grade spans, from grades 1 through 8. All came from District 25. So really, really amazing. Again, big shout out to Beth from our team, who's really pushing our schools to engage in this work. Really, really exciting stuff. We also had an Ezra Jack Keats Award winner from JHS 194, excuse me, and it's Lesedi Grace from 194, and her book Stray was recognized during this competition, and she was a winner. So big shout out to her, and congratulations to Julie Santaniello, the teacher who supervised the creation of the book, as well as Principal Miller and her team. So really, really amazing work there. We also had in March a visit to PS24 with our Chancellor Samuels. Big thanks to PS24 and Principal Singh for all of the work that she did to make this experience a really positive one. Our kids performed for our Chancellor in multiple ways. They are a Disney, a Broadway Junior. Disney Junior school, and they put on a little bit of their Finding Nemo show for the Chancellor, as well as their chorus singing for the Chancellor, and their student council asking the Chancellor a series of questions, which were really, really well thought out and well done. So, and thank you to our teachers that opened up their classrooms to a series of folks who were in their rooms, seeing what their work looked like from a day-to-day basis. So, big shout out to our school for that. Summarizing reminder that the application, obviously the window's closed, and offers will be coming out in the end of April. Just again reminding our folks that they, if they're taking a seat, that they indicate that they will be accepting, and that if they accept, that they're going to join over the summer, and they don't take seats from other kids that might want to utilize them. Upcoming events, we have our virtual session. Next virtual SEL session will be on Thursday, April 30th, helping your child develop friendships. Really, really important one. And then there'll be our last session in the virtual math series around fractions, proportions, and ratios, concepts that are really super important for our community, as fractions typically is the area that our kids struggle in the most as learners. We have our second annual Wellness Day is scheduled for Saturday, May 2nd. I would love to see all of you there. It will be held at Common Point, Queens. There'll be a series of resources there for our families to take advantage of. So if you guys could be there, that would be fantastic. Okay, and the last part is about giving everyone an opportunity to look and review the guidance. So I'm going to put the timer on the clock. I'm going to ask everyone just to take the next 10 minutes or so, just to review the the AI guidance that is on our central site. Just to familiarize yourselves, you may have already looked at this, but if there's anything that comes up for you that you feel is important for us to also discuss as a district team, that would be great. But I'm going to put the timer on. Again, I know that we get these things. Sometimes we may have the time, sometimes we don't. So I want to give you a little bit of that opportunity right now. Just to do that quick review and put the timer on for 10 minutes, and we will come back in 10 with anything that you feel is important for us to raise, including at the very bottom, there is a link for you to provide feedback to the chancellor's office, which I would encourage us to do, and I will put that link in the chat as well. Okay, come back in 10 minutes, folks. Okay, just 2 more minutes, folks. Okay, everyone. I'm hoping that you had enough time to review. What I would really encourage everyone to do is share some of those thoughts and suggestions in the feedback form that the central team has provided. But would love to get some just general comments from everyone that had a chance to give it a look just now. Things that are resonating with you. I saw Eduardo put in there that he appreciated the what it is and what it is not component to it. I think the red light, the traffic light system, I think is appropriate too, just in terms of where we're at with AI right now. But any comments from you guys? Go ahead, Patricia.
Okay, hi. Just quick, I know, of course, I would love to hear the feedback as well. So in terms of the must be used with human oversight and review specific age restrictions, I agree, all of the above. Also, in my eyes, and for what I see with my kids, right, and along the community, the support and the social and emotional aspect, because it's not only in the education side, but also I've been reading a lot, and I'm going to go a little bit to the bone because, when asking for emotional support to AI, and then obviously leads to some behaviors that are not appropriate, or unfortunately the suicidal rates due to the fact that they don't reach to an adult that can help whoever is reaching out to overcome the challenges in life, and reaching out to AI is not the best choice. So I think we got to support them and make them understand, have critical thinking, which is always an issue to be addressed. And also, how can I put that? To discern between the facts and the fabrication. So not only believe and rely on what AI is telling them to do. And of course, sometimes adults, we have a hard time dealing with what's going on in life, and go figure, in their minds, they're just developing. And I think the support is crucial, not only in the education, but from the parents at home and the teachers. And yes, ask relevant questions and human The AI is a great tool, don't get me wrong. I'm not against it, but again, knowing how to use it, when to use it, and as a tool, basically. So
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with you, Patricia. I think that
thank you so much.
like most things, we have to be critical consumers of things. And I think Eduardo, you put it in there too about it's not always being always accurate. I think Gus, you noted that
Right.
too. And that space of being critical consumers, I think, is so super important in anything we do, even in this context when we're talking about AI and not
It's
just taking things for
interesting
face
when the
value.
teachers tell you, I know so and so, because I've been having this conversation with the teachers and everywhere. And they saying, I know so and so, Patricia, I put myself as an example, didn't write that essay, that essay in the chat, because suddenly, which vocabulary should come from reading and from interacting in other resources, versus AI writing it. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
that's a good example on what's going on. So
Yeah,
thank you very much.
yeah, yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
Well, I like that they are beginning to really look at this and they're trying to create, I guess, official operational guidance because, as a principal, as a building leader, we're all always concerned on making sure that we are working within the parameters of the rules. And right now, while the traffic light system is good, that yellow, it is concerning because those are the we don't knows yet. So it kind of leaves it up to us to use judgment, and that can be, different depending on who is looking at that. I like that it's already been established that Irma has to approve it. There's guidance around it not deciding grades, not writing IEPs. I think that makes sense. But there are some things that it says you can't do, like with translations, it says you need a qualified linguist. I mean, who are these linguists that we're reaching out to in every case? Looking forward to be completely established so there could be real professional development around this with clear expectations. I understand that it's all new, but it's not that new. So I'm happy that they're doing it now, and I look forward to all this feedback being gathered and there being, like I said, clear operational guidance on how we approach all of it.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Yeah, I think some of the yellow space. I think we always have to kind of exercise judgment, though. I think that will always be there in some way, shape, or form. And I think, where I would always err on the side of is making sure that folks, and this goes back to the critical consumer part. It can't be just I put in a question, here was what the output was, and here you go, kid. Or from leaders' standpoint, here's what it crafted for me. Here you go, staff. Here you go, families. We have to be able to read what it is that's there, make sure that what it's being presented is in fact accurate, and that we're not putting things in front of children that, contradict what maybe a historical reference is talking about, just because it gathered a whole bunch of stuff and spit it back at us. So I do think that space of yellow will always be there in lots of different ways. I think the part that I think does need to get out of that mud is, the information that we're able to put in to get information back out. And that part of it, I do think needs to be kind of unpacked more, for sure. But yeah, thank you for that, Rob. Gus, go ahead.
Yeah, from the point of view of a teacher in a classroom, I recently had some AI experience in that connection, and it I think it creates a bit more work on the part of the classroom teacher, in that what I had to do was I had to ask the same content questions of AI that I was getting back from students. And then what I did was I looked at the language and the content and compared it to what I was getting from the students. And it showed me that they were basically getting the information from AI and regurgitating it back. So that's kind of a classroom practice that I would recommend, teachers would have to do is because, you know that the students are going to go to AI for all, kinds of content information and you basically have to go to it yourself in order to be able to understand that the content you're getting back may be just generally, based on what they've, been able to get from the computer instead of, various sources.
Yeah, thank you, Gus. And I think that's that space of on-demand writing experiences versus giving you time to research so that you get to
Yep.
learn who your kids are as writers and thinkers. If we just rely on them to do research absent us as the educator to see what's going on, then we can assume that maybe perhaps the things that they're putting down on paper was them, and that's who they are as a writer. Unless we have means of recognizing that and being able to assess that as the educator, then it becomes fair game. That's just who I am as a writer. You can say whatever you want, but I wrote that, right?
Yep.
Versus being able to really see who they are as students. So I think there's got to be a little bit of that give and take around what are the assignments we're actually giving, and do we really know our kids? You know, which I think there's a lot more for us to reflect on. Because even Melissa, my daughter, she's a junior, and it's not infrequent where she said, "Oh, I just popped that into ChatGPT, right?" In fact, she wrote me a whole paragraph. We had a little bit of a disagreement around her use of money. So talk about financial literacy. Her use of money and how she spent a lot during this break, and not a lot of her own money, a lot of her dad's money. But she wrote me this this long text, and I jokingly wrote to her. I said, "Was that you or was that ChatGPT that wrote that to me?" So it's just an interesting thing for all of us to have our mind's eye on, and really, are we really promoting the thinking component of the what we want our kids to do? And I think that's certainly an AI thing, but it's also about us recognizing our own kids as parents too. We know who they are. We grew up with them. We helped raise them. We know what they are able to write and what's them and what's not them. So I think that's a part of it too around the parent piece that's important as well. And I agree with you. The AI hallucination, Eduardo, that is a real thing too. But I encourage you, please enter your feedback into that. If you are a parent leader, please do so. If you're a representative from your constituents, please make sure that you're sharing this feedback. The more people respond, the more of an understanding the central team will have in terms of really solidifying this guidance document by June. Otherwise, what winds up happening, like most things, and I'm guilty of it too, we get a feedback form and we think about it as the other person will do it. The other person will share their thoughts. And before you know it, a guidance document comes out that you may or may not like. You may or may not think is the best. Why? Because you didn't share your thoughts inside of it. So I know that feedback forms are often the last thing that we want to do, but please make sure that you're sharing widely this opportunity. The link is there, and let's get as much feedback in as we possibly can. But I appreciate you guys sharing, and I think a lot of the things that was said aligns with what this document calls out already. So thank you for that. Any last minute things on the AI before we move forward? Go ahead, Charlene.
Always concerned about staffing levels and how people make these determinations and what kind of training support staff gets to be able to, if they need to speak to a child and they say, their training might not be as rigorous as other staff in the building, and they might, try to de-escalate and go to ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I de-escalate the situation? It may be incorrect.
Mm,
So it's for me, it's training, staffing, like I said, those food menus. We don't know if they're going to start using that to determine what children should eat, which might not always be the best thing. I think there's some other questions to be asked, and also all schools are not evenly populated. We've got space in schools. We're a little bit under enrolled in the entire system. So I think like one of the purposes of AI is to expand capacity. I'm not sure if we need to do that right now. We've been hearing we're under enrolled. We're not at pre-COVID levels. So why do we need to move so fast to build
Mm.
capacity with kids we don't have in seats?
Yeah, thanks, Charlene. And I think you know, I think the real kind of genesis of this is that we have a tool that's out there that still has a lot of questions for us to answer, and I think because it's evolving so fast, it kind of brings the urgency to this space. And I think once a framework is organized, then a lot of those other things could also be added in, over time. To kind of answer some of those other questions that might be not looked at as um, as urgent inside of the space, because I didn't really see a lot of that stuff that you just mentioned inside of that document, talking about, the relationships to menus and impact certainly impact on decision making is there, but some of those other things in terms of jobs and such, I don't necessarily see that in there. I think it should be included as part of the feedback that's shared. You make sure that all bases are kind of covered in the framework. But thank you for that. Okay. So moving right along into our other things. Speaking of hiring, we will be doing a hiring fair for our teachers on Wednesday, April 22nd. We'll be hosting that at PS 169 from 4 to 6. We have upwards of 450 people that have already RSVP'd that they will be coming, looking to seek teaching positions here in District 25. We do this early so that we can get our eyes on those that are interested and want to be part of the District 25 family. We're looking forward to it. We did it last year. It was an amazing turnout. And some of those people that were present on that day did wind up getting themselves positions in our district. And I look forward to the same type of turnout this year. We'll see what that means in terms of the volume of teachers that are needed. Many of our schools did go class size reduction, going into the 25-26 school year, and it did help them with the hiring process, and we're hoping the same happens this year as well. Okay, so let me just quickly share my screen and just bring everyone's attention back to some questions that I asked you to ponder last session, and that was these three things. What does it mean to be safe in District 25 academically and socially? What does it mean to be academically rigorous in District 25? And what does it mean to be truly integrated? These are three questions that our chancellor has posed over the course of the last month, where he did his listening and learning tour across the city. And it wasn't necessarily framed exactly the way that I framed them here, but similar in nature to this kind of mindset around how are we doing this here in the city. And I think it's important we also have that conversation as well. So I did create a Padlet, which I will put into the chat. And I'm going to ask us just to take a little bit of time to reflect on those statements. I'll put it into the chat for us to do a little bit of entry. So when you think about these three things, academically and social emotionally safe, academic rigor inside of our schools, and truly integrated, what does it make you think? What should that mean for us as a collective district? So I'm going to give you guys just a few minutes just of individual reflection. And I told you, unfortunately, my part is a little bit longer today, so I do apologize for that, but I think it's important that we're all on the same page. So I'm just going to give you 2 minutes just to do some independent reflection. And then we'll have a quick chat in rounds around each of these things, but to do some of that defining of those expectations right into the Padlet. So just 2 minutes for independent reflection, and then I'd ask that you go into this Padlet, and then just click on this little plus sign that you see here. When you click on the plus sign, it'll allow you to write some of your thoughts and then just publish. That way we all have an opportunity to reflect on each other's thoughts. So take those 2 minutes, independent reflection, and then begin adding your comments here. And we'll come back together shortly after that. All right, folks, if you could begin adding things into the Padlet, I'm sure you can see me doing that right on the screen as you had that reflection time. Just post some things in there around what you think, um, our environment should look like, sound like, and feel like, and then we'll have a chance for a quick chat thereafter. Okay, seeing a couple of entries, please continue to add them there. If you're having trouble with the Padlet, put it into the chat. Um, but I do want us to have a little bit of a conversation around this. So if you haven't been able to, and you're able to kind of see some of the things that have been entered first, some that resonate with you already, things that you believe can be expanded upon to support our collective thinking, because I do believe this really connects to the portrait of a graduate work that is coming, that is going to be part of our conversation, and we should have a solid base for what we believe as a collective community. And we've talked about these things in the past, and it's part of our district vision statement. But I do think that it's revisiting it and making sure that what we say here actually aligns to what we believe. So at any point, you're welcome to continue to add to this. If nothing's striking you now, that's fine. But I want this to be an ongoing conversation so that we're all connected. But is there anything here that any of you is seeing that you want to kind of highlight as important that maybe you didn't write, but someone else put into the Padlet for us to reflect on? Anything in particular that kind of striking you as important? And feel free to kind of give that virtual hand so we can see what anyone that has a comment about any of the elements that were posted. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
What stood out to me was the comment around students given opportunities for learners to think critically, to make meaning of concepts and skills. I think that is integral to education. I mean, that's the difference between a passive learner and an active thinker, someone who's taking responsibility for their learning and actually having fun. I enjoy my job every day when we are given the opportunity to think critically and solve problems and approach things from our own unique perspectives, and children need to be given that opportunity too, and get used to doing that. And that's what life's all about.
You know what? I'm going to just add into this, Rob, just to kind of echo some of the things that you just said, this idea of opportunities for our learners to become problem solvers. I think that's an important component that adds on to the statement that was already in there. I think that's a really, really important one. Go ahead, Patricia.
As a matter of fact, I would have to say that everything resonates, I believe, as collectives, yes. But one thing that I would like to also add to, from what does it mean to be safe academically and socially, emotionally, also added on what does it mean to be academically rigorous, and it's when you mention giving space to debate, because I do understand that nowadays the debate is one side or the other, and they don't know how to agree to disagree and maybe brainstorm and come out to a specific idea that it can become from both ends of the conversation. I don't think the debate, the meaning of the debate is fully being understood nowadays, and it creates a gap instead of coming together. Like I said, brainstorming and giving different positions, which is okay. Like I said, agree to disagree. I think debate should be part of different subjects, not a specific one, in order for them to, again, come up with ideas and come to a common ground and solving the problems and making this world a better place, with real life issues, develop the skills to interact and understand what the other person has a different point of view, and it's okay. I see when I'm having conversations in general, or you put a question under the table, and it's more likely leaning towards creating a gap, that debate and brainstorming, and said, okay, we agree to disagree, but your idea is great as well as mine, and we can come to a common ground. So I will go rigorous academically. They should be aware of how to conduct themselves on that.
So I kind of took what you just said and made this simple statement of giving opportunities to reflect on and engage in productive conversation and discourse that allows for respectful disagreement and debate. debate across content areas, making real life issues taking, not making, taking real life issues and turning them into problem solving opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you so
Okay?
much. Thank
Sure.
you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Charlene, anything? Eduardo, Rachel, anything else that we want to add in here that you don't see yet or believe should be part of this? And I do think this is an ongoing thing that we can continue to revisit, but I think it's important, especially as we start getting into our goal setting process, and we start looking at the data that we're going to review right now, around how are we doing that for all of our kids. We have kids that are meeting expectations right now, right? But who are we not doing that for right now? In particular, in District 25, and how are we organizing ourselves to do better at that? And kind of brings us to this next layer of conversation that I'm going to ask you guys to review and reflect on. But go ahead, Rachel. I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, the one thing I was thinking is in reference to being integrated in District 25. And it kind of ties into the AI piece we were discussing, is in reference to translation. As it mentioned that it should be reviewed by an appropriate person. But like Rob said, who is that person? And I know each school has an OLA.
Mhm.
I don't remember what the acronym stands for to help with translation services, but that person's not necessarily going to be qualified to review documents unless they happen to be by some chance fluent in that language. So I think that's an important area to focus on and to bring up because we need to be able to access those individuals and know how to get our documents appropriately translated and when AI is appropriate and when it's not.
Yeah, so I noted here ensuring that materials are accessible in languages of need. For I think that I can put parentheses there. Dependent on the situation, families and students in some ways. And how are we making sure that they're accessible? And during one of the meetings with the chancellor, one of the things that one of the kids brought up was, she's like, at times I'm the translator of things for my parents. And that really shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be on the child having to then explain to the parent because the message went home just in an English version. It does need to be available, for our families. And recognizing that sometimes too, and we learned this the hard way years ago, that there very well may be some of our families that struggle to read themselves. And we put things out there with the assumption that because we've sent it, that folks can read it too. And it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we did a parent-student literacy program on a Saturday, and we had it for like 6, 8 weeks in a row. And one of the segments was for parents and kids to read together. And one parent that was there happened to be illiterate, and because she was uncomfortable, she stopped coming. And those are things we just didn't know. We didn't realize that at the time. And likewise, when we send home messages, the assumption that they are able to just grasp it is not always a reality either. So how do we make sure that that information is available, in productive ways too? So thank you for that, Rachel. So I'm going to leave here. I'm going to ask you to kind of bookmark this Padlet if you wouldn't mind, and share it with others that you're around, and ask for some of them to include some of their thoughts too, so that we have a really working tool here that allows us to consolidate that information. And yes, we could use AI in this circumstance to say, surface some patterns and trends that exist, and those are things that we could review. And as a means of supporting our understanding of how AI could be a productive tool for us in certain ways, and that we can become critical consumers of it too, becoming a model for what that looks like for our kids over time. Okay, so thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time. And that's going to bring us into this next segment. And it'll be a little bit of time for you to reflect. And this is for our priority one. So our goal this year was to improve outcomes for our targeted subgroups. And those were particularly our Black learners, our Hispanic learners, our multilingual learners, and our students with IEPs. They're all fit into priority one because we did see some opportunity gaps that existed over the course of time. Last year, we did close those gaps, which was fantastic. The goal was to continue to improve upon that this year. Now, what we have seen is, and you guys remember this from March, the amount of progress this year was not necessarily at the same level. So we do have more digging in to do, which we want you to start thinking about collectively here. And what you'll see from slides 24 through 31 is a little bit of a breakdown, in particular, a group of learners that we know we still need to work through, and that's our multilingual learners in particular, what you'll see side by side here. We have a significant population of multilingual learners. It's nearly 6,000 children that we have in the district that speak languages other than English. And what I would love for you to do, just to reflect on the side by side. What does this look like for our general population compared to our multilingual learners? How are they performing compared? Again, middle of the year doesn't mean that's where they're going to end, our learners, but that's where we are middle of the year. And I want you to look at side by side what that looks like. So from slides 24 through 31, if you guys can just take the next 5 minutes, they're not overly dense slides. You might not even need the 5 minutes. Just take that time just to review what does it currently say in terms of kids and where we are as readers. You'll see K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, to get a little bit of perspective on where they are as readers. So again, 5 minutes, and then we will come back together. Okay, just one more minute. And in the event you don't have the presentation, I'll put it into the chat just so you guys have it. So if we can, just talk a little bit about what did you notice? What did you see inside of that small little data set? Anything that's calling out to you? Go ahead, Rob.
I mean, very encouraging in the lower grades when it comes to foundational skills. I think that I'm seeing that in the district it's 25% L's, 120 we're over 50%. So that we live this every day and we see so many gains in the lower grades. But you look to the upper grades and I guess it depends also when children arrive and they enter our school system. But the older you are, the more difficult it is clearly to apply those skills and have them translate to students who are closing that gap in language proficiency. So that all the more reason for all of us to really make sure that students in the lower grades are doing as well as possible. And we're closing those gaps so that they are prepared to use those skills to learn, not just learn to read, but read to learn and become successful.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think one of the things that's pretty clear, especially when you look at some of the kind of the implications around information, particularly when we're talking about the iReady domains. Our L learners, and listen, they're rightfully so. In some cases, they just got here. In some of the cases, our kids are brand new learners. So the command of the English language is not present yet. But the reason I showcase this is because we have so many of our multilingual learners and we do, comparatively speaking to other districts across the city, we do well comparatively, but it's still not nearly enough, right? We have to be able to do better at accelerating as much as we possibly can the learning experiences for our kids across grade levels, and I think it's most pronounced when we get to the upper grades. Go ahead, Patricia.
Well, now I totally agree with what you're saying. Definitely, I came over when I was 28, so I have the challenge to immerse myself in the culture, learn myself first, including reading comprehension was part of that's why I've been part of the Queen's Library system for so long. And I what I wrote is, I cannot emphasize enough in the collaboration between parents and the school teachers and school staff and among the community to provide necessary tools in order to help there at home, because you do a fantastic job in school, but then when they come home, how we can help them to continue expanding that knowledge, and practicing. I think it's fantastic to speak more than one language in general. It affects your brain in a positive way, but also then here you speak the language English. The English, that's what is I mean, I speak Spanish and many languages in the house, but at the end of the day, your work is being done in English. And again, I mean, reading comprehension is very important, including for math. Because to solve math problems, here we go again. You have to comprehend what is being written and what is being asked for. So I will also take into consideration helping the parents in the household, which I'm not saying is easy. It can be done. I'm not saying it's easy. I know myself. But, I think the working in collaboration and make the parents, which I do a lot, understand that they got to put themselves out there, right? Even when I figure people make fun, for instance, I'm going to say something as an immigrant, with the way you pronounce something. Okay, you got to say thank you. May you please help me how to pronounce instead of getting, intimidating, which is not easy. It's a different scenario for all of us, It's not even, like I said, if I compare Spanish with, which is Castilian, with Italian, some words are even the same, but then you come with, Greek and with English and, gas your hair and the color, any other language, and you're kind of lost in translation. So, I think make the parents understand and break the ice and go for it and be bold and really want to understand, because from my experience, the minute I really want to learn English and immerse myself in the culture, there was no one person that didn't help me. And I'm so thankful. Everybody jump in and you say yes, And whoever bullies or, I say we wish them the best and we move forward in order to learn. But this country gives you the best opportunity, but the working into collaboration, it seems to be a little bit of a hassle for most of the immigrant parents. So I'd
Yeah, and
advocate for
I
that.
think the question is, how do we become even more bold in our approach? Because I know our schools do try to connect with our families in lots of different ways. But I think it's about how do we start thinking a little bit differently about that to maybe help support it a little bit more. And the one part, Patricia, that you did point out, and was hoping that you guys were able to see here, is that the part where we're doing a good job is we're building some of those foundational skills. And Rob, you kind of alluded to that, that the foundational skills are getting built. But when we look side by side, the part where it's from being able to decode to the space of understanding are two different things, right? So our kids are starting to get a better understanding of how to read, but what they've read is still becoming, like looking at a blank page. So I was able to be able to read the word by decoding it, but not being able to make meaning of what they just read. So it's like that old typewriter. You type, and by the time you get to the end, it slides all the way back, and you're like, what the heck did I just read on that first line? And then you have to go back and reread it. I don't know about you guys as adults, but I find sometimes when I'm not really focused, I can read an entire page worth of stuff. I'm like, oh man, I got to go back to the beginning because I read it, but I don't really know what the heck I just read. And I think that happens for our kids too, is that, they've now learned better how to read the words on the page, but they're not reading to make sense of what those words are. So it's, celebrate the success of them being able to get across the page, but now it's really about helping them build that understanding that's really necessary for them to feel like they're successful readers. And that's a big part of what that data has told me anyway, that we need to do, really balance this, that whole seesaw part of it, that we're not just doing the one part real well, but that we're balancing it out so that our kids are not only able to decode, but they're able to make sense of it. Anyone else, any other comments from those slides? Go ahead, Gus.
To reinforce what Patricia was saying. One advantage that we have being in the 21st century in America is that English is not only our language of this country, it's the international language. It is a language that's spoken all over the world and really is the international communication system. If you think of airlines, for example, I think pilots all over the world and every airline and every airport. I mean, the way they speak to the tower, et cetera, is in English. And in so many other areas, English has become the means of communication, not only for Americans, but for people in other countries as well to talk to each other. So there is an advantage to, honing your English language skills, not only domestically, but internationally as well.
Yeah, thanks, Gus. And I do think that there is a part too that there has got to be an added emphasis on the importance of multilingualism. I think sometimes, even here, some of our families that come, they're good with their children being part of a dual language program, but only to a certain point, a certain grade level, and they're like, no, let's just go into the English language. There and then what happens sometimes is our kids start losing sight of the importance of the language that they've learned throughout their childhood. And it's no longer emphasized. And we hear from parents all the time that say, well, I speak to my child in Mandarin and they speak back to me in English. Or I speak to my child in Spanish and they speak back to me in English. So I think that we also need to make sure that we continue to not only, yes, continue to build our kids as readers of English, but also to demonstrate the importance and the value in being able to speak and read and write in another language as well. I think it's really valuable on both sides of that. So where
No
I want to
question.
where I want to kind of bring everyone to is this space. So from that information, these are some of the things that we noticed. Um, the gap that we do need to address is that the coding alone is not going to produce the readers that we really need to see. And we've talked about the science of reading in the past, and Scarborough's rope talks about building those foundations, that phonics, the phonemic awareness, those high frequency words, and then into the space of really that understanding part of it, which is the vocabulary knowledge, the understanding of complex language, our abilities to discuss and review complex pieces of text, right? Those are the sides of it. So from decoding to understanding, analyzing, applying, and what this information tells me is that we do need to spend some time thinking about that balance between the foundational skills and the meaning making part of our work. So you'll see a little bit of that in the K to 5, but you'll also see a lot of that in our 6 to 8. What happens here in the district, we do a really good job of preparing our kids when they come to us in kindergarten, first and second grade. But like Patricia, not all of our kids are coming to us in kindergarten, first and second grade. They're coming to us in fourth grade. They're coming to us in fifth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, absent the English language. And then we're thrust into an environment where we want them to learn that tomorrow. Tomorrow we should be, know how to do that already. Um, which is not always realistic. But what is realistic for us is to start thinking about how do we elevate and how do we escalate and enhance what we're doing to make sure that our kids that are just coming to us are given the best opportunity as possible. Because what I do know is when they leave us in eighth grade, if they're not ready for the complexities of the text that they're going to need to read in high school, they do become tomorrow's dropouts as multilingual learners. And that's not something I want to be able to see. And we need to do better from elementary school all the way through middle so that our kids are able to make sense of what they're reading. So you're going to hear me talk a lot about this idea of meaning making. So thinking about from decoding to our kids' ability to make meaning of text. Does that make sense, what I'm saying there, guys? Anyone, think differently about that idea? The data does say that foundational skills are present, but not so much on their ability to make sense of it. Right? Go ahead, Charlene.
Formerly, I was a parent coordinator, and what I noticed is parents, I'm a woman of a certain age, parents are way younger than me a lot of times. The challenge is that they did not learn to read the way that I did. And so during the era of Bloomberg education, which my son went through, reading was not taught the same way. Now we are returning to it. But that gap of children that learned to read that way, they did not have a lot of the skills that we want to give to their children now. So not only families who don't speak English as their first language, but also families who do speak it as their first language who didn't learn to read
Like
this
this.
way. It's very much a challenge because that's where the shortfall is. So, and that respect, I just want to highlight we're all in that bubble together because all of these children have come through that same pipeline. Even though they were in school at that time, their parents were. And it's going to take a little bit of different teaching to kind of reverse engineer how their parents understand, along with coupling social media where they don't have to decode their parents
Mm,
because the information is fed to them more rapidly. And
mm.
that is a little bit going back to the AI. How do we slow that down so that kids can learn these skills? Because they won't really feel the need for them. And learning is based out of necessity a lot of times. If we don't feel the need for it, we're not going to look into it.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really important point that you bring out, Charlene, around the fast moving realities of some of our parents happen to grow up in the age when, this was not necessarily done the same way. Or I do think some of the programs existed, but it was not done with the same type of intention as it is now. So things like foundations was used in the past, but not necessarily the same way that we're asking them to use it today. So I love that. That's really, really important feedback for us to kind of reflect on in terms of the supports that we're providing for our families. And one of the things that we actually got noted for in that All Systems Go document was many of our schools are opening their doors now to families to come in and actually see the practice unfold in the classroom with their children, so they have a better understanding of what that means for them as a parent. Uh, but that's not to say that we don't have miles to go, right? There's still miles and miles to go. But love that feedback, really, really good. Um, so this idea of students being able to decode accurately, mentioned that, still having this lack of vocabulary development to support comprehension. Um, Student reading experience, exposing students to topics maybe perhaps that are disconnected, which impacts their ability to hold on from one to the other. And many of our kids are simultaneously learning English while learning to read in English. So some gaps that do exist there as well. So what we're hoping to do is bringing us to this set of goals, and just want you guys to ponder these for a little bit. And it's a little bit of a different change in the mindset from last year, and not too much because I do want to keep things consistent. But by June 2027, that all schools will strengthen explicit instruction, still sustaining our work on that, and refine our MTSS practices. That means when we see kids that are struggling outside of that sphere of success, those kids that need additional intervention, whether it's tier 2 or tier 3, get it, but also around tier 1, the most important part, with a focus on continuing foundational literacy, because I don't want anyone forgetting about the importance of decoding and phonemic awareness. We do need to continue to sustain that, but also to emphasize meaning making. That, why did the author choose to do that? That space of debate that Patricia was talking about earlier. We can't do that if we're not really asking those questions inside of our classroom. So creating opportunities for our kids to really become, critical in some ways of the things that they're reading, you know, really talking about and engaging in depth around what they just read, really super important, with the idea that we're going to continue to close gaps for our targeted groups of learners. So that's one of the components of it. The other part of it is the implementation of a new standalone program for our entering and emerging multilingual learners. So this year we piloted a program that unfortunately we did not see as much success as we wanted. And the city simultaneously piloted another program where there has been some success that has been seen, and that's in this REACH program. It's from National Geographic. What excites me about National Geographic is that it's all content based. And what we do know about our multilingual learners is that the best place for us to accelerate learning is inside of contents like social studies and science, where we're building some of those foundational skills while also teaching some really important content. So the goal is, particularly with our schools that have higher populations of multilingual learners, that we engage in this REACH program with the goal of reducing the number of kids that are in that entering and emerging space, so that we're improving by that one proficiency level at minimum. So just take a moment and reflect on both of these goals, and any comments or feedback that you might have. Because again, this is just the beginning. These will be presented to principals as well. I wanted to share it with the DLT first. Our principals will see this next week for some of their feedback and comments on. And then we will kind of go from there in terms of solidifying. Hopefully, we'll be all done by May with this goal, as well as the next one I'm going to present, share with you some data in just a moment. But any comments on these two preliminary goals for 2027?
I think they look good, Dr. Mike.
Yeah, it makes sense, Rob.
Yeah.
Not too far away from where we were. Just thinking
Yeah.
more in depth around making meaning.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reprogramming like my entire upper grade around MTSS blocks to make sure that we have the infrastructure and capability to address these gaps. These are great.
Awesome. Anyone else? Any thoughts? And I think they're very relevant to the high school level as well. So aside from even creating goals that are primarily a community district focus, I think they're very relevant to the high school level too. Lamar, any comment? Any thought?
Mike, I just want to add as like maybe something to attach to this. I wouldn't put it in
Yeah.
this, but
Yep.
definitely the more opportunities that schools have to train their teachers in the approved MTSS programs, we jumped all over it this year whenever you put something out.
Yeah.
And with new staff being hired every year, earlier and frequency of those trainings help.
Yeah, I think that's a really important part, Rob. And the action planning process is creating time and space for any new people inside of the action plan, so that we don't lose any ground on people that might need um, some of that additional skill in implementation of some of those tier 2 and tier 3 programming. Yeah, I think that's great. Maybe more on the action plan, not necessarily inside the goal. Okay. Anyone else? Comments? I think this looks like, tentatively look like at least on the right track. It makes sense. Okay. Awesome. The next one I do want to bring you guys to and call attention to is around the physically and emotionally safe. And I hope you guys indulge me on this, because I told you I was going to have a longer one than usual today because there's just a lot of stuff. Um, but the information I'm going to put into the chat. This is from our most recent social emotional learning survey across the district. This is shared with kids, and I wanted you to see what the results were for mid-year. So you're welcome to click on that link. What you'll see here is from the winter survey. The C column is what students strongly agree with. The D column is what they agree with. E column is disagree, and the F column is strongly disagree. You'll see over to the left-hand side are the questions and the actual kind of domain area. So you'll see community agreements, which was a big part of our goal this year, connection before content, relationship skills, all the way down to supportive school environment, with the questions in the next column that you'll see right beside it. So they'll have your question 26, 27, and then the associated responses from kids across the district. So there are thousands of children responses here across grades 3 through 8. Just takes the next couple of minutes. Anything that's drawing your attention, I conditionally formatted it so you can see anything that's in red or orange are things that we probably want to take a closer look at, and maybe call out in terms of goals for next school year. So just take, again, the next 4 minutes. One more minute, folks. Okay. All right, let's come back together. Anything that kind of, resonates with you as something that we should be, really thinking about as a district, based on some of our student responses, from the survey. And we did make adjustments to the survey, from the fall to winter. So, I think that we've gotten, some really quality things for us to support our thinking. So, um, yeah, go ahead, Rachel. We'll start with you.
Excuse me. Yeah, I noticed that a couple of the areas that were identified in red were in reference to self-management and self-awareness, specifically about being able to calm oneself down when angry or upset, and then also specifically about being stressed over things at school. I know coming up, we've got the state tests starting tomorrow in our school. And I know that's something personally that my own daughter has been stressing over. I keep telling her, don't worry about it, do her best. It's not going to affect her ability to, move on to fifth grade. But still, there's that. I mean, she's so stressed to the point that she put it in her prayers to
Uh-huh.
to help her, do well on the state
Yeah.
test. So I wonder too if around this time of year that would be an increased that would affect the numbers as far as increasing that stressor, that area of stressor.
Mm. Yeah, pretty clear. The whole schoolwork space seemed to have consistency in terms of kids that, had more to say in that disagree or strongly disagree space, from, feeling prepared or staying engaged or being able to handle the stress that comes with the work. That was pretty consistent in that particular one. In general, that one was highlighted as the probably the most in orange of the groups, with the exception to one particular component in supportive environment, that I noticed too. But go ahead, thank you for that, Rachel. Patricia.
Well, exactly what Rachel said, also, and it comes intertwined with, I can calm myself down and then treat each other's with respect. So I went Q12, 14, Q21, and I don't think, in general, that's not. I'm not gonna be specific with the district, although we are speaking on that regard. I don't see that they know how to deal with frustration, and that's a key component on, and you can calm yourself down. I think that the stress management is not being addressed. I'm saying in general, across the board in all ages, age appropriate as well. Of course, you talk differently and depends on the grades. But I think that the fact that they don't know how to deal with frustration, and speaking also of my 17-year-old, and
Yeah.
that it should be that way. Not always, the challenges in life is not always the outcome that you want. So that leads to stress, and you can calm yourself down. I don't know where the tools are and the skills that they should develop at early age. I think the earlier the better. in order to, like I say, yeah, deal with the frustration that the outcome is not always what you expect and leading to having expectations. And it's okay. It's a learning experience, and we move on, based on what we learn from whatever the issue is. Also, I go back again, parents interacting and let them understand that not everything was being handed, financial literacy. I go back to what you say, yeah, you got to earn your money too. It's okay. That's what life is about. I mean, real life issues. And I will say, yes, that's what it came to mind right away. They don't know what to do with themselves, which is okay, because we are here to learn. We went through that, being done, being there and done it. But I think everything is being handled is not helping, and treating each other with respect. Who cares about the other person? The empathy component, being empathetic with the other and being somebody else's shoes,
Yeah.
being humans.
Yeah, one of our schools does a project it's called the Invisible Backpack. Kind of making sure that everyone around, each of the kids around each other knows that there's something that I might be carrying that you don't know. And how do we? It's basically around it was a self-management type of process. So the kids recognize that you have to be mindful that others may be going through things, and you have to learn how to make sure that you're accountable to your own actions in that regard too.
And
So
there's
it was
consequences for
yeah,
your actions as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
when you disrespect another peer, whatever your behavior has consequences that you have to deal with and go through and navigate and again and learn. You can't just frustrate and listen. It happens to us. Well, who are we kidding?
Yeah.
We are learning
No,
too.
yeah,
In
yeah. We
different
have to be able to, and
circumstances.
how do we model that as best as we possibly can?
Exactly.
And I think that's the important part. And we do have programs that we've been implementing. It's a question whether or not they're truly having the impact on our kids the way that we're hoping, so that by the time they get through middle school, that we've built our kids well enough, at least through the lens of what we do as educators, um, to know what the right thing is. You know, it, piling on a kid just because you feel you can is not the right thing. So that you can walk around the hallway with your chest puffed out, so to speak, where you don't have to worry about how you just made the other person feel. So I think there's some of that too, that contributes to it. We do have one leader in me school, Charlene, in the district. It is not a district-wide scenario though. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, I would come from an elementary school. I would like to see this broken down by 3 to 5, and then seven to 6 to 8. But just recognizing, well, the word most, when it comes down to most kids, is a kind of subjective. But it's the most vicious creatures in the world are. I do believe it's the American honey badger and a seventh grade student. They're both pretty. They can be really awful to each other. And that being said, you get a class of 30 kids, all it takes is 2 or 3 kids to be fresh. And then all of a sudden it feels like all the kids in my school, because who's laughing at what they're saying, who's not standing up for what's right. It doesn't take a lot. So the work is ongoing when it comes to this with that age group. And I could see in my own school, if you look at my third grade, I think it's 91% positive responses to it's in the 60s by the time they get to fifth grade. And I'm very
Mhm.
involved, and I could tell you it's only a couple of kids in each class that could be really fresh, but it gives that feeling. It could change the culture of a class of how you feel when you're coming to
Mhm.
school. And when you're asked a question, like on most kids, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or if it's 20. The feeling is there that I'm experiencing disrespect. I don't feel safe maybe to participate. I'm not looking forward to go to lunch or gym. It's really important that we address it constantly. This type of work.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rob. Gus, and then Charlene.
Yep. Just quickly, I just want to point out that the treating each other with respect issue is not just a District 25 issue. I see it across Queens North in all of the surveys that I have access to.
Yeah, and the goal this year, the whole connect idea behind connection before content was to start creating space for kids to get to know one another and know that we have a lot of things that we have in common. I mean, just listening at the very start with the idea of fancy dinner versus home cooked meal, it just created a small little space for us to really get to know one another in a different way. And that's what the whole idea of that was this year too, was to kind of spread more of that opportunity for our kids across our classrooms, just as a way of relationship building. I think it's an important part, but clearly we have to do more and do things a little bit differently, perhaps. And we're going to get some feedback from our principals and APs on this too, around how do we address this in a different way. And I think there is this layer of frustration that might exist with our kids. Maybe some of it's home, maybe some of it's school, maybe it's a combination of the both. And then the result becomes maybe a little bit of venom that comes out on their peers, creating this space of feeling like there's this lack of respect. Because what I thought was interesting, when you look at community agreements in our classroom that we're respecting all of the rules, 80+% of our kids agree with that. But then when you look at do they respect each other, it's a different story. So it's a interesting little difference there in yes, we're respecting the rules of the classroom, but maybe not each other all the time. So more work to do there for sure. And Charlene, close us out on this one.
Just 2 points. One is on children coming out of what was a COVID period with lost time and not really knowing how to interact with each other and keeping some of those same tools that they would have used virtually. They didn't largely come out, I guess, back into like a living world. They came out still on the internet, still interacting virtually. And I think that has a lot to do with how they respect each other in person because it's a different dynamic and you have different emotions and maybe some more opportunities for them to come together in person and kind of give them a script of what to say because I really feel like they don't know.
Yeah, and what
Um,
I would love for all of you guys to think about is what would we want our district goal to be when it comes to this? What would we want to prioritize amongst what the kids have said? This is what the kids have said. We get some feedback from our principals, APs as well, to add in what Rob said is totally true. It could be just a couple of kids that are creating this space of not feeling respected, but in general, they feel pretty good about being in the school, right? And I think that in large part is the case. Um, but at the same time, we shouldn't have to feel that way. You know, kids shouldn't have to feel that they feel disrespected at any time during the school day. And if they do, this is the bigger part. How do we deal with that? Right? How do we deal with it when? Because all of you on this call know there's going to be someone at some point in our kids' lives, the 23,000 children that we're serving, they're going to come across someone that's not nice. They're going to come across someone that says something that's insensitive. They're going to come across someone that's just flat out mean. Unfortunately, that is the reality. And how we handle that as adults now is a little bit different, perhaps, than our kids are able to handle it themselves currently. And those are skills that we have to be able to build, that resilience of knowing that not everyone is going to be kind. I mean, I think about my own children. Emily, there's nothing you're going to say to her that's going to bring her down. It's just the way that she is. I can't tell you that I did anything about it, but that's just who she is. I have to do a lot more work with Matthew on that than I do with her. She walks in the room, she feels like she's the most confident kid in the world. I don't know how it happened, but it's what it is. Matthew, not so much. Things are going to weigh on him differently than they weigh on her. And likewise, a lot of our kids have that same type of experience. Those kids that are ultra confident versus those kids that are not so much. And when a child that is not overly confident gets confronted with, how do we help them manage that? Because it does weigh on shoulders differently. It just does. And we have to be able to work through that a little bit more so that we're building that confidence, that sense of self for our kids in deeper ways so that they don't feel as though even when there's this layer of disrespect that they know how to manage that too. So what I challenge you with is let's think about what we want this goal to be so that we can really all be on the same page with growing this out. Go ahead, Rob, and then let's close this out because I know I'm over time.
It's fine. I just really quick. I wonder if there what to what extent we could put a parent component to something like this, because schools often try to teach a certain way to tackle these types of problems, and oftentimes parents are aligned to that, but sometimes that's not the case. I know even at home, like Robert's come home from school where he was upset about something, and I'm trying to give him some support, and then my wife was like, maybe you should punch this kid in the face, and I'm like, hold on. Hold on, we don't because we have parents that are,
Yeah,
it happens all
different
the time.
extremes.
He
Yep.
bothers you, you hit him or something like that. And just not just in this way, but in so many ways, I'm thinking of an approach to really communicate with parents on how to not just social emotional, but all things
You know what, Robin? I
to be
think
better
this is a
partners.
goal that maybe we need to extend a little bit more outwardly to the community on, really getting more feedback, and even from the DLT and during the bigger meetings, our President's Council, to really get some of that additional perspective. Because I agree with you. There are some cases where some of our folks want to take it to extremes. The extreme direction, whatever that is. you know, conflict, consequence is that child should never be in the sight of my child ever again. Um, should be suspended for months at a time. Those are the extreme, right? No, they do exist. So how do we balance through that with a goal? It does seem to me like, relationship building is still an area, self management still an area, and I think us kind of digging through what we're currently doing versus what we can do, I think is important. And some of that might layer in how are we doing this with our families. Are they really truly on board with what we're saying? I think that's part of it for sure. So if you guys can really think about this one a little bit, and the priority to me, it sounds like it's supportive environment space and self management. If you guys think that would be a good entry point, that's terrific. And we'll go from there in terms of crafting. Um, yeah, and certainly our neurodivergent children for sure. Charlene, love that you pointed that out. It's certainly really hugely important, especially in our schools today. More and more of our community schools have children that too have needs that need to be met differently. For sure, love that. All right, so guys, that's going to bring my portion to a close. We covered two of the five priority areas that we're going to really dig into for next school year. One of them, I feel like we have a good entry point for a goal. I think the other one, I think we just need to tease out a little bit more, and I ask you to do that between now and next month. Go ahead, Rachel.
I just wanted to ask if for the constituency reports, I could go first because I'm actually at a doctor's appointment that I
Oh,
have
100,
scheduled for
100,
11.
100%. We'll let you go right now if you want, Rachel. Go ahead.
Okay, sure, great. This month in our President's Council meeting, we are planning to have, speaking of soccer, for the spelling bee winner, we're going to have we're going to have a representative from the New York Soccer Club um, talking about fundraisers or just having events for the school to bring the school community together. And then we're going to focus on elections because we're coming up on election season for the new school year's parent leaders. So helping the president's councils know what to expect and how to run a great election and have a full board in preparation for the new school year. So that's what's coming up in this month's President's Council meeting.
Love it. Thanks so much, Rachel. Eduardo also just had to hop off. He just said his only update was that there's a social emotional learning workshop on conflict resolution on April 23rd from 6 to 7:30. So thank you to Eduardo for that. Gus, did you have anything else? I know most of it was kind of already done with my report.
No, I don't have much to add. As everybody should know, iPlan is closed currently, and we expect it to open probably in about a week, I hope, by the end of the month, certainly. Um, I will not be getting, I think, any reports to share, based on the CEPs and the DCEP. I have a meeting with Central on Wednesday, and I'll get an update. I expect that when they open, they will share the new template for the CEP, and I don't expect it to change dramatically. There will be some tweaks, I am told, and I will get updates on that. That's basically it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Gus. Rob, CSA?
Real quick, we just want to recognize last week was AP week. Unfortunately, we were off that week, but we recognize all the work they do in their roles to make the schools run. And I wanted to, I mean, you took the cake on it. We were talking about how all CSA members are going to be giving feedback on the AI, um, on the AI survey as we're studying it now and meeting together to really try to give as much thoughtful feedback as possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, and listen, I encourage you guys to add in those thoughts. The better we get at it, the more productive our use will be, for sure. Lamar, anything UFT?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. No, nothing to report. We're actually quiet on the Western Front. Everything's good on this end.
Love it. Favorite thing to hear. Charlene, DC 37.
Hi. So I'm making the round to all the schools in District 25. I have quite a few to go. I will start to reach out to some of the principals to see if I could actually schedule site meetings. Members come to me break time and lunchtime. It's a lot of benefits questions I'm getting. There are some other things that come up that we're able to address. I'm just asking if everybody can just get back to me. I know it's busy, but if they could reply back with dates and times that work. Pop-ins are a little bit different. I'm not really there for that long, but site meetings generally take longer.
You know
So
what, Charlene? That they don't necessarily know you yet, so it might be
hmm
that they're not recognizing even who this email is coming from. We have
okay.
had three separate people over the last 2 years from
Mhm.
oh my goodness, who was I don't know why her name escaped me, but we had Monique just prior to you, but there was also
Yes.
one prior to Monique.
hmm
So transition, maybe perhaps we can bring you to one of our meetings just to introduce yourself,
Okay. I would like
so
that.
that just so that you have faces to names for anyone else who
Yeah.
hasn't been able to connect with you yet.
Okay.
So we'll share some dates. I know you and I are meeting on Thursday, so
Yeah.
we'll share some meeting times that maybe you can just pop on and just say hello for anyone else that hasn't been able to connect with you yet.
That'd be great. The other
Okay?
thing is I'm motivating all of our members to get to the home stretch. I know June is right around the corner. This sometimes becomes a very difficult part of the year because kids are kids and they start to, weigh on you.
Spring
So
spring spring fever. It's a real thing.
yeah. So that's a part of some of the conversations I do have with our members as well. Just keep them motivated and going.
Yeah, no, it is a real thing. Don't As soon as the weather starts getting a little bit warmer, things
Yeah.
start changing in one's mind's eye, and I don't know what happens. And I think sometimes adults too, by the way. It's not just kids. Sometimes adults
Yeah.
too start getting that spring fever. But Patricia and your role, I think, close us out on chat today.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I just have a couple of events to share. We're going to I have the flyer here, Wednesday, April 15 is Queen's Gateway to Health Sciences. We have tough questions from Queen's students. So Queens South and Queens North students come together, the student leaders, and is across the board. All the subjects will be public transit, safety around schools, city council and education budget, school priorities, and we have special guest John Liu, NYS Senate education chair. We have city council education chair too, Eric Alden Foster. We have many guest speakers, and also they're gonna ask the questions, including after school employment, paid and pain. We going above and beyond, answer the questions, and this is going to be, like I said, Wednesday and April 15th. It's going to be at 5 p.m. And then we have the Parent Symposium, which is going to be May 14th. It's an evening of inspiration, connection, and shared purpose for parents by parents, and Superintendent Vanessa is hosting. We have him guest speakers. All this is going to go out on the flyers. And also, as per Queens High School President Council, we have a robust agenda for tonight. Again, community leadership and supporting all the parents. I want to emphasize the amazing job that the team is doing in order to go to all the events, including with the chancellor that we've been in like 4 or 5 at least. We make time, as a team, we work it out, and working in collaboration with all of you, and we appreciate your support and your feedback. So I'm going to drop in the chat our Gmail, because we want to know how can we support all of you and do better. How can we improve from our end, right? Because for us it's crucial to work in collaboration, but we need the feedback, we need the criticism, right? And what positive changes we can make in our community. That's what we're here for. And again, I'm extremely proud to be part of besides of course Cardoso, and part of this community and working with all of you. A lot of progress we had made and we came together, but again, we couldn't make it without you. So yeah, more events to come, and we'll see you tonight in our meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Patricia.
My pleasure.
All right, guys, that's gonna bring us to a space of coming to a close. Again, just I ask that you reflect on the things that we talked about today in terms of those goals. Anything else that you would want to do to make a change, particularly in our reading goal, as well as feedback around what you believe our social emotional learning goal should be. That whole idea of physical and emotional safety. I think it's a really good opportunity to reflect on some of the things that you believe as parents we should be doing. Charlene, from your perspective, DC 37, Lamar, from your perspective, U of T, Rob, yours from CSA, and how do we really kind of get on board? Because my feeling is, and what I know to be true is that if our kids are coming into our classrooms without feeling good about things, they're not learning. They're just not. It's so much harder to learn when your mind is thinking about what person A said to you down the hallway, or the look that you feel like you got. Learning tends to stop, and we need to be able to help our kids navigate that differently than what they're able to currently. So I ask you guys to really reflect on that, share some of your thoughts, share that Padlet with some of your constituents as well to get some additional perspectives on what we believe learning should look like inside of our district community. But other than that, I thank you guys. I appreciate you. Do we have consensus to bring this meeting to a close? Yes, Rob? Yes, Patricia, thank you.
Yes,
Charlene, we're
thank
good.
you very
Yes,
much.
Lamar, good. All right, guys, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Everyone have a great day. Bye.